Welcome to BlendedTV. I'm your host, Dave Rafuse, and as a reminder, tonight's episode's brought to you live from here at Blended Athletics, and this is an interactive show. So please go ahead, post any comments or questions that you have, and we will answer them live here on the show. In tonight's episode, we have a guest with us that I'm extremely excited to talk with. His name is Mcdonald. Many of you know him. And as I found out today, many of you know him for many different things. He is the owner of Aerobics First. He is also, runs Fit It Forward. He runs the Sparks Fly program and has a project that he runs in Gambia. I'm not sure exactly what we'll get to talk to him about tonight, but I do know that we do want to discuss with him tonight to ensure that you guys get some great information with regards to footwear. We want to talk to him about proper footwear. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for spending your Wednesday night here with us.
Oh, I've been looking forward to it since I've seen it. I've seen your TV show twice now, and it's really, really good.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really excited to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Before we get into footwear, today I was asked on multiple occasions, who was on tonight's episode. And when I told them that you were on tonight's episode, I was surprised that so many people know you for so many different things. So no one was like, Luke Mcdonald, the owner of Aerobics First. The consensus was that each individual knew you for something different.
Well, it's interesting. I think some of that's because of the way I operate on Facebook. So I have 3 different streams. It's all under Aerobics First. My primary thing that I do is I'm a shoe fitter. But some of the projects that we do through Aerobics First are really broad-minded. So the Sparks Fly is putting mini silent spin bikes into classrooms for kids who feel stressed. Well, the reality is all the kids in school have much higher stress than they've had before. That directly relates to fitness in my world. Like we want people to run. But at the school, it gives the teacher an opportunity to tell the kid about stress that allows them to calm down, to think, oh, actually, fitness does that? And then at some point, that's actually often, it's the first time the concept of fitness is introduced to the kid. And so that's one piece, but I see it as being directly related to Aerobics First mandate, which is to get people to move. That's the bottom line. So Fit It Forward is an extension of one of the programs that we have running in the schools. So we do a start to finish program where we have 3 schools in Halifax. We picked schools that are in, I'm going to call them maybe economically depressed areas, where we go in there for 32 weeks of the year for 2 hours, 1 week, 1 time per week for 2 hours, where we run with the kids and we read with the kids. So during that process, as we head in towards the Blue Nose Marathon, we also fit the kids with shoes. So they get new shoes to run the marathon with. And so I was quite flabbergasted to see the poor quality of footwear the kids had. And that's why I brought this one particular shoe, is that this shoe is the one that sort of made me really look at how important it is for small businesses to give back to the community.
So there was a kid wearing the shoe.
Yes, he was the 3rd boy in the family wearing this particular shoe.
Now, you guys might not be able to exactly see what this shoe looks like, but you could probably put your finger through the sole of that shoe.
Yeah, it was really sad, but what had happened was this, the first brother that was in the Start to Finish program, he wore the shoe, then the second brother wore it, then the third brother wore it. The difficulty is the third brother had a size 13, and this is a size 9.
And he wore that shoe.
Yeah, when his foot came out of this, I went, oh my goodness. And so what I did with him is I had some of our regular shoes from the store there, and I have one of every size just in case this happens. And so I just popped the shoe on him. And he just left, and he thought, well, great. We're all getting shoes. He didn't realize he just got a $150 pair of size 13 2E Brooks Diets. He didn't know the difference, that he wasn't getting the $70 shoe, and he just went on his way. What was interesting was the fellow that was with me, he took that incident back to his boss, and then his boss wrote start to finish a $5,000 check.
Really?
And then that's when I sort of realized that there's a story here. And so what I started to do was accumulate the value, the social value of this shoe. And now it's over $1 million. So I call this the $1 million shoe, because that story led to Sparks Fly. It led to the Gambia project and all these other things that happened as a result of one person at the right time hearing this story.
So this single shoe changed pretty much your entire future.
It changed my entire life.
Changed your entire life.
Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, I think that's what's so impressive with everything that you've done. And to kind of almost take a second and dial back, because we were just having this conversation before we went live on the show, and you're really good friends with Jason Davis, who I had on in episode 3, where we were discussing kind of the health and wellness of Nova Scotians.
Right.
And in that discussion, I mean, one of the things that as a local business owner that is trying to assist and educate individuals within this province and within this city on trying to live a healthier, more active lifestyle, one of the biggest things that we hear from individuals is that they just don't have time. And I wanted to bring this up because you made a really good point. Now, you own a business, Aerobics First.
Yeah.
You're highly involved in 3+ major projects. I mean, if you don't follow Luke on social media, it's something that you should definitely take part and do, because you probably post more on social media than, well, definitely any of my friends. But you certainly, each one of your posts is about a different project that you're participating in that day. And the reason I bring this up is that before we started talking, and I was telling you that, you know, one of the biggest things biggest issues that I face with people is time. You do all of this, and today, from an exercise perspective, what did you do? Share with everyone what you did today.
Well, I got to work at 8:15, and then I went and I did a 5K jog in about 33 minutes around the block. But during that time, because it was meant to be a very slow recovery run from the Dartmouth Natal Day road race the day before, or on Monday, I just took a bag with me and I picked up 4 bags of garbage along the way. And so that, I can't stand running in a dirty place. So this is my 5K regular route, and I said I may as well clean it up today because I'm going to be going slow. And so in the afternoon, I had to go see my friend Andrew Feenstra at Cyclesmith. So I did a brisk walk to his place. That was 3K. And then I had track practice in the park, and I did 2 10-minute runs. Then I came home and cycled with a buddy, and we put in an hour. I was on the elliptical, and we did the Cow Bay loop, and now I'm here. So
So your day really doesn't stop. So for people who have an excuse for not spending 30 to 60 minutes of exercise in a day, that have a regular 8-hour-a-day job, they're losing it. Like,
yeah.
honestly, like, you can't tell me that someone that's as busy as you are and is involved in so many different projects and still finds that amount of time in a day to exercise and to be here with us at 9:30 on a Wednesday night, that people that work a 9-to-5 job can't find that time.
I read I tend to read a fair bit, but one of the older books I've read, it was just a basic book on leadership, and it says if you can't manage your time well enough to work out for an hour a day and take a vacation, you shouldn't be managing any company. And so that sort of hit me. I said, yeah, okay, well, that's doable. It's amazing how long a day can be. But the bottom line is everything I do is it's fun. And so there's no reason not to do it.
So you took a vacation last year where you went to Gambia.
No, I've never gone to the Gambia. I might go in in the midwinter in March.
So I feel like your vacations, though, would revolve around some sort of work project.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But I mean, for you, it's no longer work. Like, it's just something
Yeah,
that you're that
it's my
passionate
life.
about.
I don't silo my life. And a lot of people silo it. I have to compartmentalize all kinds of stuff, and I really don't do that. But that has its problems too, because I have a wife and a kid and all this kind of stuff, and I'm not as well balanced as I should be in terms of that type of stuff, and that's part of the things that I struggle with and I'm trying to work on.
Yeah, I think I hear you on that
So
one.
there's pros and cons to all this stuff, and it's certainly not all glory. And if I was my friend on Facebook, I'd probably defriend me because it's just too much stuff. But most of the Facebook stuff, the way I treat it is I treat it as gratitude and thankfulness. So a lot of the posting that I put on is because I'm thankful that I had an opportunity to do something for someone, and I want to acknowledge it publicly. So a lot of the posting is for one person. It's not necessarily for all the friends I have. So you filter accordingly. But most of it's an appreciation for the people that are around me.
So some of your big projects that you have on the go, as I've already mentioned, one of them includes the project Fit It Forward.
Right.
So where did this project come from? The first time I heard of this project actually was just the other day when we were discussing, and I was asking you kind of what's going on in your life that I want to share with all of our viewers. And you brought up the Fit It Forward project. It was something that I was unaware of.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'm going to see how fast I can tell it. It's there's a guy Blake who owns a company called Tom Shoes, and he built this. He built his life based on knowing that this was going to be a successful model. And essentially what he did, he has a fairly inexpensive canvas shoe that is really hyper cool. It's a very fashion forward shoe, but it's basically cheap. It's a canvas shoe, looks really good, sells for $69.90, $59 to $79.99.
Yeah.
But the margin on that is quite long, right? There's a lot of margin, there's a lot of profitability built into it. And then he basically would add the cost of a kid shoe into the purchase price of an adult shoe. So if you buy one adult shoe, he could give away one kid shoe. Brilliant idea, right? So he built in the margin into the product that he was giving away, which also afforded him to go travel to these countries, create awareness of the horrible footwear situation. And there's a lot of countries in Africa that have volcanoes in them. So in these countries, the soil is poisoned. So if a kid gets a cut, the poison from the volcanic earth gets into them, and it lies dormant for 15 or 16 years, and then it comes up as this horrible disease. It's like a leprosy, and then that young adult is now ostracized from their village, which is, it's basically lights out after that. So I saw that problem. I said, isn't that interesting? We can't do that in the shoe industry, but how can we do it? So I've been thinking about this for 10 years. And so anyway, the second part of the problem, the second answer really came to me when there was a guy named, I think it's Steve Wortman in Philadelphia, and he owns a pizza joint called Rose's Fresh Pizza. So people will come in there, they buy a piece of pizza for $3, and for an extra $1, they could buy a piece of pizza, like the coupon for a piece of pizza to stick on the guy's wall. So someone that's hungry could come in. If there's a sticky note there, he can take that and get a piece of pizza and eat. And I said, oh, I know.
Great idea.
It was a great idea. You fit it forward. But as soon as I saw that, I realized that we could do that in the shoe industry. Our customer base is so awesome that they're willing to come into the store, buy their shoe for $150 or $160, and then give us an extra $10 or $20 on top of the price of the shoe in order to go into a pending account that just sits there. Once that shoe gets to the clearance price of one of our shoes on our clearance section, we can buy that shoe from ourselves with our customers' money, and we can fit a homeless person.
So you take those shoes and you head out on the street.
Yeah.
And you find homeless people and you fit them with the proper footwear.
But what's actually happening now is like Shelter Nova Scotia, who's has put their stamp of approval, so to speak, on this. They're now collecting the names and the sizes of the people that need the shoes. And so currently I have an app that was built on Curbsa, where it's a store that only the people that work with the homeless can see. And they can go in and say, oh, you're a size 7.5, let's search fitted forward on Curbsa, and let's see what size shoes are there so that you can have them. Press one button, Luke delivers them.
Incredible. And you know what? I don't know what's more incredible. This Fit It Forward program or Sparks Fly, because I'm quite aware of Sparks Fly. I mean, we partnered together with Fitness Week a number of years ago, where we basically, all the money that we raised was going towards creating one of these Sparks Fly bikes in order to get that out there.
It's the same project. One's anxiety for kids. Okay,
yeah.
Picture this kid being anxious all the time. The chances of their becoming homeless are significant. So when I see the anxiety in kids these days, I just say, okay, let's throw this forward to, let's have this person be 50 years old. There's trouble.
Yeah.
So then you look at a homeless person and then picture them at 8 years old. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
It's anxiousness, it's the lack of physical fitness, it's all these things that are all teed up. It's the same problem.
So you've thought so far ahead with these projects that you're trying to create a project that's preventing this from happening in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the basis. You know, when Margaret Armour started Aerobics First, it was built on a social consciousness from day one. It's a 36-year-old business. So when I came on board, I had the ability to say, okay, you know, I bought my first pair of sneakers there when I was 16. I planned to buy it, and I wrote the plan when I was 20 to buy it. I'll step over the camera here. And there's the plan.
This was the original plan.
For me to buy Aerobics First.
Get out here. And you
Right.
made this plan when?
When I was 20, 21. I'm 52 now.
Amazing.
And so I've always thought long term. You know, in 1986, I read the book The Age Wave, which is the first book on demographics and aging for the future. And it could basically tell you what's going to be hot, when, for every decade, for eternity. Some of the difficulties is, you know, our baby boomers, especially the 50 to 60-year-olds, were too selfish, which sets the stage for the me generation and a lack of willingness to put back a lot of what we do into the community. So when I see a guy like Jason Davis and yourself, I'm thinking, sorry, man, I'm sorry to put you in this position because your kids are this big, my kid's this big, and these kids are the kids that have to change the world.
Yeah.
The beauty of the situation is that you and your fellow gym owners are taking that on. And as soon as Jason said, hey, I got a group that want to right this ship, and I said, how old are they? They said 30 and less. And I said, I'm in. What can I do? And so that's actually why I'm here tonight. What can I do to help right the ship so we can set the stage to get these kids moving?
Yeah.
So that they're not also the homeless people who are don't have the opportunity or have maybe the DNA in their family to be fit. So when we're putting these little kids on the bikes, we're saying, here's some DNA for you. You may not have a culture of fitness at home. You get to start.
And it's amazing because, I mean, I have lived by two main rules for a number of years now. I mean, ultimately, I've had the benefit that growing up, I played sports and I was fit the whole way. And then I just continued that. I mean, I did a kinesiology degree at St. FX and fell in love with fitness. But I mean, those two rules that I live by is that you have to always be feeding the mind.
Right.
And in order to feed the mind, you have to be able to provide the mind with a temple.
Right.
And that temple is our body.
Right.
Because I can personally feel, and I mean, we've all gone through this, where life kind of gets in the way, you end up spending a week or two away from fitness in one way or another, and I feel the difference almost immediately.
Right.
In not just in the way that, you know, I feel physically, but in the way that I feel mentally. And the fact that you're going out of your way to kind of make such huge changes in kids' lives today in order to help prevent them from getting to that ultimate phase of being homeless is incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
I think it's just neat, but again, I can see it. I've tied it all together, and it doesn't necessarily, like, this is one of the very few times I've actually, locked it together and said this is what it is. I think it's interesting to do it one-to-one. I don't do it normally, on a bigger stage, because it's almost too much to comprehend.
Well, when you said that you share your story with me live on Facebook in front of all of our viewers, I was extremely thrilled to have the privilege to be able to be the one that delivered that information to everyone that was out there.
Yeah, well,
now, we're going to come right back. We're going to talk a little bit more about footwear.
Yeah.
But before we do, we've got a commercial where we've got Brad Elliott coming on to talk to you guys about elbow injuries.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Brad Elliott from Blended Athletics, and today I'm going to be talking about a little bit of rehab. So in particular today we're going to be talking about elbow and elbow pain caused by inflammation, tendonitis, or just tracking or shearing. The best way to treat it that I know of, or one of the best ways, is a voodoo floss band. So what I'm going to do is have my friend Scott play the victim here, our patient, and what he's going to do is put his arm up against the wall here like so. Very nice. And what I'm going to do is step around, drop the guns, and I'm just going to wrap his elbow, okay? So what you're going to do is a few inches just above the elbow, wrap nice and tight, come around, nice and tight, bear with me for a second. Feels good, eh, Scott?
Nice and tight.
So what this does, whether or not the pain is caused from inflammation or tendonitis, or if it's a shearing or tracking problem, this band will fix all three. That's right, go from here. Okay, come on over. What you're going to do, I want you to just take the band and put your hand through a range of motion here. Just relax, totally relax. And all that's doing right now is, if it is a tracking problem and the bone isn't tracking right now, it's kind of putting it back in order. And if it is a tendon problem, it's stretching that out. And if it is inflammation, it's pushing that out of the area. So he's going to do that now until, let me see your hand for a second. So he's kind of getting zombie hands right now. So we got to make sure he doesn't have zombie hands too long, or they could start to get damaged, and you don't want that, okay? So when his hands start to go white, or if I pinch and the color doesn't come back, then it's time to take it off. Feel free to do this as many times as you need until the pain or the inflammation starts to go away. Otherwise, repeat until the pain goes away, and that's it.
Welcome back, guys. Back on BlendedTV, we're here with Luke McDonald. He's one of the partners in Aerobics First. And we've kind of, if you are just tuning in now and you missed the last 15 minutes, you really do want to jump back and hear some of Luke's story. He has done so much within our community to ensure that we're helping some of the younger and older individuals in our community. Now, one of the things and one of the reasons that I brought Luke onto the show tonight was he is one of the experts in this city when it comes to footwear. Aerobics First sells shoes. I mean, that's what you do day to day.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about how to fit footwear. And we were talking before we went live again this evening on some of those misconceptions. And I mean, this is my life. I spend my day helping others get fit and how to do that. And I thought I knew a fair amount about footwear. In 5 minutes, you basically changed my entire perspective of what I knew.
Right, I understand that, because that's the biggest thing that we do day in and day out is I said one line to you about comfort, and I say this a lot at the store. Comfort is not necessarily what's good for you, it's what you're used to. Because most people don't know how big a shoe should be on their foot. Most shoe stores don't get out the old Brannick device and actually put your foot on it and show you how your foot gets bigger from sitting to standing. So you can visualize that. 85% of people wear their shoes too small. And why they often wear them too small is that their first professional fit was getting a soccer boot, a ski boot, baseball boots, or hockey skates, where that type of footwear has to be a cast fit. It has to be a little bit small so you feel really secure in the shoe. And so if you're moving laterally, your foot and your shoe move together. In soccer, it's especially important because the foot and ball interface, it's the touch. That's the feel that a soccer player would have in order to kick the ball and to be able to dribble the ball so effectively. If the shoe's a little bit big, they don't have that touch.
Yeah.
So it's completely understandable. But what they do is they say, well, my shoe probably should be bigger, but maybe just a half size bigger. And that's not nearly big enough.
Yeah.
So a properly fitted running shoe, if you took the insole out of a shoe and you stood on it, your foot should sit about here. I'd show you. You should have about a thumb's width room from the end of the insole. So that's one key thing that you can do if you're being self-fit or you're self-fitting. You just pull the insole of the shoe, put your foot on it, and you should have a thumb's width room at the end of the insole. Unfortunately, most people wear their shoes right to the very end, so when their foot's in the shoe, their foot can't be a shock absorber. If it can't be a shock absorber, it doesn't go through its proper range of motion within the shoe. Often what happens when the shoe is too small, the pressure on the bones within the foot, bone pressure causes bone growth, and that over time will seize the foot. And so it won't act as a proper hinge. So when you're talking a CrossFit shoe, I would fit that completely differently than I would a running shoe. The running shoe would likely be a size bigger so your foot can go through a greater range of motion. Also in the CrossFit market, you don't have as many variety of fits. So it's very hard to find a 2E or a 4E CrossFit shoe. That's a problem. So then you have to, the fallback is always fit first, and then the secondary piece is get the right type of shoe for what you're doing. So when I look at your Nikes and the Reeboks here, completely understand why these are great shoes for in the gym. But to run a 5K, 10K, or marathon, it would be very problematic because it's likely these would be too small.
And I mean, the reality is we talk with our members all the time, letting them know that this is sufficient for like that 400-meter run where you've got to run back to the gym and then go right into some sort of lift. But the reality is anything that you're running over a kilometer, you really should be changing your shoes. And to be fair, a lot of our members do bring in 3-4 pairs of shoes when they come in to train. Like their kit bag is primarily full of shoes.
God love them. Send them to Aerobics First.
You heard it. Go to Aerobics First. But I mean, also on that note, when we go back to the concept of fitting these shoes, depending on what it is that you're utilizing them for, a lot of people are going into these bigger box stores where teenagers are fitting them with a shoe. I mean, are we really comfortable here that these kids know how to fit a shoe properly?
I am, because I can train it in 10 minutes. The reality is they're not being trained the right stuff. At our store, our age, like I mentioned in the previous, we're actually trying to reverse age our store. We have very young staff, 21, 22, 23 years old, but 2 of them are Kines grads, one's an engineer. These are really smart, knowledgeable people that actually they're good runners, all that stuff. So, we have a little running joke often is that there is a lot of ageism out there, but it's reverse ageism because they don't think that these kids can carry the message. And they're not really kids, they're young adults. But we do have 16 and 17-year-old kids that can carry that message.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's just a lot of ears aren't as open to the younger generation, and their ears should be open to it.
Yeah.
However, there's many occasions where, they come upstairs and they, hey, Luke, we need the gray-haired guy. And then I'll go downstairs and say exactly what was said previously, and that person will say, "Oh, great, thank you." And I'll say, "Hey, you watch that. These are the smart ones here."
We see that in the gym here. I
Yeah.
mean, my staff range from anywhere between 21 and, late 30s. And the same thing comes up in that scenario where sometimes those that are 21, and to be honest, some of those individuals, they know more than what I know.
Oh.
I'm not even joking. Like, I may own Blended, but at the end of the day, these kids that we're talking about, I mean, they're not kids anymore. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm only 30 years old myself. But I mean, at the end of the day, they live, breathe, eat, sleep, fitness.
Yeah,
I mean, they're experts in these fields.
I'm not teaching all the stuff that I learned that was wrong. Their baseline is way ahead of anything that I ever had. The first 10 years of selling shoes, I apologize to all of you because I didn't know what I was doing for the first 10 years. No one talked about the foot and foot function. It wasn't until I started to work with Orthotics East and Freeman Churchill, who was a foot expert. That's 10 years into a career. And that's when I learned it. So these guys learn it the second they come in the door.
Yeah.
Right? They know the right information. And we typically, even though they're younger staff, we hire older souls.
Yeah.
They're really sharp kids. And, why I do all the stuff that I do is I'm so hopeful with this young generation. I think they're brilliant. I think they're wise. And I think they're going to right the ship. And a lot of people say, "Oh, these young kids these days, that's craziness." There's so much hope with these kids. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I know too many of them to know that they're not going to right the ship.
I can't agree more. Now, some of the consequences that come from wearing an improperly fit shoe can be what? Like, how do people know that they're not wearing something that they should be wearing?
Well, the biggest thing is the person will inevitably end up in the physio. Seeing a physio, chiro, they'll end up in healthcare somewhere. But what happens when they go to these places is that the shoes come off.
Yeah.
They're not introduced as a problem. So one of the main parts of my job is to come out to places like this and say, this is the problem. Almost all shoes are equal if the fit is good.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit scary to say, but that's the truth. If you can run in a pretty horrible shoe if the fit's pretty good. And so if you the physios and the people that we deal with in a pretty strong network, they'll say, "Oh, your shoes are too small. You have to look at these because any of the exercises I give you that are on top of these shoes aren't going to work, right? Because if your baseline isn't right, the trajectory up the chain won't be right, bottom line." And so, the first thing is the shoe fit. And many times people will come into the store complaining about a shoe, and I'll say, "I'm not the guy to be seeing right now.
Yeah.
Where do you work? Where do you live?" I'll go to my little geo map of our physios and I'll say, "Here's the most likely person they're going to go see," and I'll introduce them based on the personality and where they work and where they live.
So other than the fact that people should definitely come and see you to be properly fit with shoes, for those tuning in now and for those that spend the majority of their day in a CrossFit gym, such as Blended Athletics, the shoe, as you were explaining to me before, a training shoe like that needs to fit slightly different than a running shoe.
Yeah, typically a little smaller.
Yeah.
This is lower and flatter than most shoes. You actually have the built-in protection for rope climbing, so that's really good. So that's going to make that shoe a lot more durable. But you still have a little bit of heel cushion, so that if you are a heel striker, you can land on it. If you're a midfoot striker, and if almost everybody's doing 200, 400, 600 meters, most will be more midfoot, and so that type of shoe is pretty good. So no knocks on that at all. But in the gym, perfect. As you come up to a full-blown running shoe, there is a higher stack. So the cushioning under the foot is increased. The flexibility points are a little bit different. So when I flex this shoe, it flexes, directly under the met heads, whereas this shoe is going to flex basically anywhere that you're folded. So it's a hyper-flexible shoe for ultimate foot mobility. This one is going to give you a little bit more guidance, so the shoe torsionally is a little stronger. And so those are two really good opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of types of shoes that you'd use. But this would be, 600 meters and up. This one up to 400 meters. But if the person's a really good runner, they could probably go up to 5K in that. And when I say really good, I mean skillful runner.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we try to introduce.
So Julie here was asking for alternatives. I believe what, Julie, you were looking for was if you're not doing CrossFit and maybe you're not a runner, but you're an avid gym goer.
Right.
For you guys at Aerobics First, you actually have a shoe that would be practical for whether you're doing CrossFit, your general commercial gym goer, so you're kind of doing a combo, as well as obviously what you're known for, which is your running shoe.
Yeah, we have a couple gym shoes, so to speak. We have a New Balance 1267, which comes in multiple widths, which is important. But we also sort of our number one gym shoe is the Asics Gel Craze, because you could certainly run, up to 5K in it. But it does have an outrigger, which gives you a lot of lateral mobility. So it has a stabilizer over here. So when you go left or right, you don't fall off the shoe. That's been a super shoe, and often we'll go right into the gym and we'll set up a shop and say, hey, try them on, use them for the session, just so you can feel the differences between the shoes. Yeah, and so that would be a very open-ended opportunity if you want to have us in here to try shoes on as people come in during the day, and away we go.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about making that happen.
Awesome.
Luke, I really appreciate you coming in tonight to discuss with everyone proper footwear, what you do day in and day out. As we sign off, Luke was generous enough to bring in 2 $50 gift certificates.
Yeah.
They're as good as cash to go against a pair of shoes at Aerobics First. How we're going to give those out tonight is I want you to comment on and give me your reason why you need a new pair of shoes. And I'm going to pick the 2 best comments from the feed tomorrow, and you can pick up this gift certificate here at Blended Athletics. Luke, really appreciate it.
Dave.
Thanks so much for
That was
coming out
fun.
tonight, and I'm sure that we'll have you back on the show at another point.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Wednesday night for episode 7 of Blended TV.